Yeah, I should never have gotten into Twitter. Twitter's just a sewer. What
Yeah,
a bad temptation to violate the eighth commandment repeatedly.
you don't have to jump into a sewer to know it's filthy.
Bringing you law, gospel, and guns. This is Armed Lutheran Radio.
Hi folks, welcome to Armed Lutheran Radio, a show about guns, hunting, competitive shooting, the natural right of self-defense, and what God's Word says about the issues surrounding gun rights and gun ownership. I'm your host, Lloyd Bailey, the Armed Lutheran, and this is episode number 244, and we will be joined in just a few minutes by our good friend, the pistol-packing padre himself, Pastor John Bennett. Welcome back to all of you who are joining us today, and to new listeners who may have stumbled onto this show for the first time and are curious what this is all about. Hope you enjoy today's show, and I hope you will come back. I hope you all had a safe and happy Thanksgiving with family and friends, despite all the stupid government mandates suggesting that you should avoid such celebrations. It's if you think about it, it's the height of arrogance for government to suggest that we should avoid the people that we care about and love during this holiday season. It's just another absurd step towards the nanny state tyranny that people like Gavin Newsom won't even submit to their own restrictions and are working hard to put people out of business and keep us apart and dependent on big daddy government for health, welfare, and safety. Have you checked your local grocery store's stock of toilet paper? Did you stock up on TP last time we had this craziness? Well, here we go again for some reason. I mean, I thought we learned last time that COVID doesn't result in, extra use of toilet paper. Or maybe it's just people panicking because they don't feel like they can go to the grocery store because they're going to die if they do. They didn't die last time, but for some reason this time they're going to. Remember Joe Biden scoffing at President Trump during one of the debates, or the only debate? No, it was the second debate when Biden scoffed at the idea that Trump had downplayed the pandemic because he didn't want to cause a panic. And he said, "Come on, Americans don't panic." Well, go look at the toilet paper aisle in your grocery store and tell me again that Americans don't panic when the media and the left tells us that this virus that apparently only kills about 3 in every 10,000 people in my age group under age 70 and tells us that it's worse than the bubonic plague and that life may never be normal again. Anyway, I hope that you told Big Daddy government to go stick it where the sun don't shine, and you took off that face diaper and spent time with granddad or grandma and enjoyed Thanksgiving anyway. Despite all the media-induced panic, we do have a lot to be thankful for, and I hope you were able to celebrate with your loved ones this year. Today is part 2 of our 2-part series on disconnecting from the culture. If you've not done so, go back and listen to episode 243. In this episode today, we've got tech tips, which was a bit of an unexpected turn. We talked about alternatives to social media, to mainstream media, to news and entertainment. We shared tools and tips for keeping your personal information safe when you're surfing the web. So there's a lot of really cool information here, and it was a fun time recording it. Before we get to that, though, I do want to recognize the people who make this show possible, the members of the Reformation Gun Club. Today's shout out goes out to John from Spokane, Washington, to Calroy, to Frank from Lake City, Michigan, to Eric, to David from Milford, Connecticut, and Tamara from Durant, Oklahoma. Thank you all so much for your support. Armed Lutheran Radio is listener funded, and that means we don't have any advertising. We don't have any sponsors. We rely on the generosity of the members of the Reformation Gun Club to keep doing what we do. If you'd like to help us keep going and doing all of this, if you'd like to find out more, check out armedlutheran.us/gun club, or look for a link in the show notes for this or any of our previous episodes. All right, time to enjoy the show. Sit back and relax, and I'll talk to you again next week. Look for alternatives. We're not suggesting that you shouldn't, but I would not suggest entirely leaving those other platforms. It really depends on your situation. For me, I'm not going to leave Facebook because there's a reason there's an audience that can be reached there. You, like you said, you're not going to leave Facebook because of your church and the work of spreading the gospel. That makes perfect sense. For the average citizen who isn't an influencer, maybe switching and spending more time in one of those other platforms, and maybe you just use Facebook for, I don't know, pictures of you hunting or out with your family or shooting or going to the range, videos from your matches or whatever, or get off of it completely if you're concerned about the way they track you. That you mentioned that a minute ago. Maybe I just talked myself out of staying on Facebook.
Well, and this is just the quick technology tip for the day. If you go into your Facebook settings, there's a section on there called Off Facebook Activity.
Yes. Go to Settings and Privacy.
Turn it off.
I looked this up before the show because I knew this would come up. Settings and Privacy, then click on Settings. Up at the top left hand, I know it keeps changing because I don't know why Facebook puts out a new version or a new layout every 6 months. It's annoying. Maybe so that you can't find this stuff.
Or maybe they have embedded in the new code more ways to track you.
This is possible, yes. So click on Your Facebook Information, and then you'll find a link that says Off Facebook Activity. You will be stunned if you have not visited there before. You will be stunned at the ways that Facebook tracks you when you're not on Facebook. It's amazing.
Yeah, they're able to do it on your desktop computer, the browser that you use. They're able to do it on your cell phone. If you the web browser that's on your cell phone, there, of course, I don't know how their technology works, but they can track the websites you visit. You know, people have joked about, I was having a conversation about such and such with somebody, and the next thing I know, I'm seeing ads for it in Facebook. Well, it might be because you went into the browser on your phone and did a web search for some reason. Same thing with Google, that I believe there's a link between Google and Facebook where there's a sharing of information that goes on there, so they know how to better advertise.
Google is really nefarious and
yes,
and insidious, really, because the ways that they have sort of worked their way into everything you do. You log into stuff. You want to log in with Google. Do you want to log in with Google? Your Google, this and that and the other is connected to your Google account. So yeah, we've gotten to the tech tips section of the show. So we're going to talk about how to get some of this stuff off, or how to get off some of this stuff and avoid some of this stuff. So this is one thing. Turn off the off Facebook activity. If you're going to stay on Facebook, do that and turn that off. And don't be surprised if you get a few emails from companies you've never heard of saying, hey, we can't access your information anymore. That happened to me within 30 minutes. I got 5 emails. Then another thing that I would suggest is switching browsers. Don't use Chrome. Find a way to get away from Google as much as you possibly can. You and I are fans of Brave.
Yes.
There are some other good ones. Vivaldi is one that's on Mac. I'm not sure about Windows anymore because
Vivaldi, doesn't that use the Tor concept where it bounces the data from server to server across the globe?
I think so, and I think the downside with Vivaldi, I like Vivaldi, but one of the problems with it is that so many websites require cookies and they have all kinds of this and that and the other ways to track you that sometimes you'll run into websites where it doesn't work right. It even doesn't work when I try to sign into the back end of armedlutheran.us. I will fill out my login, and then it will tell me that it didn't accept it, and it will try. I have to do it again. It doesn't happen with other browsers, only with Vivaldi.
Here's another quick tech tip for Mac users: is that if you like the Safari browser, which I don't use Brave so much anymore. I use Safari more than anything, just because of some of my plugins that work better with it. There is an app called OneBlocker. I think it's you can do the free version, but there's I think it was a one-time payment of $10 or $20 for life that gave you all the features. And what it does is it lets you, by default, it disables everything on a page, all the trackers, all the ads, everything. And if a page doesn't work right, it'll save the customized settings for each page where you can, turn on various features, and you can have a very customized experience where, for example, Facebook, I don't let it do anything with Facebook.
Right.
There's also the concept of using a private browser tab where it's usually like Control-Shift-N. Well, depending on whether it's Windows or Mac, it's Command-Shift-N. And it opens up a new window where it doesn't save any information whatsoever.
Right.
So no cookies, nothing.
Google has that, but I don't trust Google as far as I can throw them. But Brave does that as well. I think most browsers have that ability to look for the ability or for the option to do like a private browsing, or I don't remember what it's called. It's usually like private browsing. Look for that and use that as often as possible. Don't use Google for searching. We joke about going to Google and Googling things, but I usually use DuckDuckGo instead.
Yeah, same here.
Let's see what else. Use a VPN.
Yeah.
That I would recommend. I use something called Surfshark, and if you want to find out more about that, you can. I'm actually an affiliate for Surfshark, and I actually like it quite a bit. What it does is it prevents anybody from tracking you. You can actually block IP tracking, and it's the next best. Well, it's not the next best thing. It's one step up from the private browsing idea we were just talking about. It's an extra level of security that prevents people from snooping on your internet browsing activity. So use a VPN. There are a lot of good ones out there. Like I said, I use Surfshark.
You mind if I make a recommendation?
Absolutely.
The one that I have been using for the last 4 or 5 years is called Private Internet Access.
Okay.
And it's very affordable. It's not, you see these ones or hear about these ones that are advertised on various podcasts like Ben Shapiro and whatnot, and those are like $100 a year. And this one, it's $30 a year. I believe it's $30 a year, and it's very fast. If you buy for multiple years at a time, you get a big discount.
Yeah.
So
and don't be a cheapskate.
Yeah.
That's the other thing.
There's some out there that, it's $1.99 a month. And it's like, then you start getting all sorts of, I've got malware on my computer now. Well,
maybe you should have bought the Premier Edition.
Yeah, it turns out it was from a Russian server farm. So there goes your privacy.
Yep. So don't be a cheapskate. You get what you pay for. If you want to protect your identity and your information online, then use a VPN and pay a little bit of money for it. Switch to alternative browsers. Don't use Google for searching. Look for alternatives to some of the other Google options out there. Instead of using Google Drive, try Dropbox. If you don't like Google Documents, there are options for that. Don't use Gmail. Gmail's become ubiquitous at this point, unfortunately. Everybody uses Gmail, including, and this is kind of scary, our colleges and our elementary schools are getting like Google accounts.
Yeah, and because Google came out with a new feature called Google Classroom.
Mm-hmm.
which actually they're getting that at the school where my kids attend and my wife teaches. My concern, of course, there is privacy.
Yes. Yep. My daughter is virtual classroom, and they use Google Classroom as well. So very, very uneasy about that. So find alternatives. I use Fastmail and I pay for it. Find an alternative, and if it costs money and it's not Google, do it. Get away from some of the big tech companies, and invest a little money in your privacy and the security of your personal information. Now, what about, how do we get away from, or what are alternatives to, like, news? Because there have been some who have suggested, well, switch to Newsmax TV or switch to OANN or Epic Times, and it sounds like you're basically at a Trump rally the whole time.
Right. And this is, I mean, of course, I personally, I can take Ben Shapiro in small doses. But the Daily Wire is actually expanding their network to include entertainment and news as opposed to just straight up opinion. Because let's face it, it's still mostly opinion, although it's a news source if you take a look at the articles that they have on their website, and then they keep trying to suck you to pay, $1.99 a month or whatever it is whenever you see one on Facebook.
Right. Some of those things you're going to have to pay a subscription for.
Right.
And the question is, do you want unbiased news, or do you want news that's not going to be hostile to your beliefs? Then maybe you're going to have to pay a little bit for it. The idea of everything coming to you free and being fair is I think a dead idea. So look for things like the Federalist or Washington Examiner or Washington Times, Daily Wire. The
Blaze Network. There's a bunch of stuff on the Blaze Network. Blaze TV is their, and again, it's mostly just opinion, but of course there's facts and data that are provided with that opinion. But it's one of those things, piss or get off the pot. If you're gonna moan and complain about the biased network news outlets, everybody knows they're biased. It's beating a dead horse. If you're going to keep complaining about it, well, then pony up the bucks to use exclusively an alternate source.
Absolutely. And there's no way that us pissing and moaning about it is going to make them change, because we've been pissing and moaning about it since Ronald Reagan was in office. Unless you can find a way to hurt their bottom line, and that is stop watching them.
Right.
They're not going to change.
Yeah, we got rid of our or it wasn't cable, satellite TV. We got rid of that about 5 years ago. If you subscribe, if you have a cable TV or satellite TV subscription, guess what? Some of that money is going to CNN and MSNBC, and now Fox News, which has become nothing more than they're fair and balanced is it's not fair.
Gone
and
with the
balanced
wind.
anymore.
No, they're the Fox version of NBC, basically.
Yeah, it's like they've become establishment GOP TV.
Well, and they were accused of that for some time, and their opinion shows are heavily on the right.
Right.
But
to be fair,
their news has more and more gotten more like the mainstream left-wing news.
Yeah, let's call
it's
Arizona
not as biased.
20 minutes after polls close, but we're going to hold off on Florida.
Right. Exactly. So the way to do it is, and I know it's painful. It may be painful if you're used to watching certain things. Just stop watching those things. Find other means of entertainment. Like I said earlier, sit down and read a book for a change. Spend some time playing games with your family. Do something other than sitting watching the boob tube. and your life will be better.
Yes.
But if you're going to watch the boob tube, don't continue to watch the networks and the services that are using, that are taking the revenue from your viewership and using it against you in terms of, the things that the traditions and the values that you hold dear. They're using that money to promulgate propaganda for the left constantly and to undermine your beliefs because your kids see it. They then believe it because that's an authority. And now you've got a battle in your home because now, once your kids become teenagers, well, Dad, what the hell does Dad know? They said on the news X, Dad says Y. Why would I believe Dad?
Right.
All these every news outlet says the same thing. They must be right. Disconnect that stuff. Get away from it. Find other alternatives.
Yeah, it's kind of like a good analogy is a heroin addict quitting cold turkey. Yeah, it really sucks at first, but your life is better for it. If you like the entertainment side of it, a good and it'll save you a lot of money as opposed to paying for cable, is that it's giving money to Amazon, but you can get an Amazon Prime subscription. It's $120 a year. You get the free shipping and you get all their entertainment stuff. And there's individual channels you can add on. My in-laws share our subscription, and they pay us $7 a month because my mother-in-law loves the BBC stuff, all the old British dramas and all that stuff that
right.
And
lots of that stuff, if you have Prime, lots of that stuff is free.
Yeah, there's a lot of it that's free, and you're not paying money that's going into the pockets of these propaganda machines.
Yeah. Disconnect Netflix because, let's face it, ever since Obama became sort of a content director and for that place, it's a sewer. There may be a few things there that are good. What I would suggest, if there is a show that you like on Netflix, game the system. Sign up for the free trial, binge watch a few shows, and then cancel.
Yep.
Don't give them your money.
And if you have here's a good plug, another technology tip. There's a service called privacy.com. It's free. And what they do is they allow you to link your, and I forget the company that's in charge of it, but it's very secure. I've been using it for years. You link your bank account information, and it generates a virtual credit card. And you can have it be as a one-use credit card. You can have it be dedicated to one particular vendor and so forth. And you can create a new card every time you start a new trial. As long as you're using a new card, you get that 1 week trial.
Nice. Okay.
And you have to generate a new email account too, because it can't be the same email account.
Of course. Yeah. But then again, there's a way for you to use Google. Just create a Google account, a new Gmail account just to sign up for Netflix or Google or whatever. Yeah. There are some alternatives too that I want to look into for YouTube. YouTube is of course a Google product. So there are things like Rumble and Gunstreamer that look interesting. I'm not sure that they're at this stage they're not just an echo chamber, but it'll be interesting to see if as people start fleeing the major companies, if some of those grow and become more diverse. That would be nice to see.
Yeah, I do use Rumble from time to time. And the draw there again is kind of like with these other social media platforms, is that they're not going to censor you or demonetize you because they don't like your opinions. Right. It's a free speech alternative to YouTube.
Yes. And that's of the two, Rumble and Gunstreamer. I think Rumble looks the most promising. But from what I've seen too, it's still largely conservatives at the moment. So the diversity of opinion is not there yet. But let's give these places a try, and don't be overly critical of them if they're not as fancy and full featured as the ones that you're trying to get away from. And if it means ponying up $1 or $2 to help them grow and to get through the growing pains, do it.
Yeah, and just another. Yes, in some ways it's an echo chamber, but on the other side of it too, the leftists already have their echo chamber, and they don't want any conservatives there anyway. So
that's true.
It's just like you're finding your new home where they're not trying to stab you in the back every time you say something they don't like.
Yeah.
But
very true.
And in fact, it's been interesting because when Parlay started to get really recognized, where they were the number one app downloaded across the Android and Apple, the iPhone platform, that you had leftists talking about, well, we got to do something to shut this down because there's not enough
threat
oversight.
To democracy.
What?
Right.
There's people over there saying things we don't like, so we have to shut them down.
And we don't have any control over it. How dare they? Yeah.
They only like censorship when they are the ones who get to decide.
Yes. And then they don't see it as censorship. They don't recognize it for what it is. They pay lip service to freedom of speech, and then they want to silence you if you say something that they don't agree with. All right, so that was interesting. I didn't expect we would end up in tech tips at the end of it, but this was fun. I hope it was informative and interesting for the listeners as well. Take some of these suggestions to heart, because we are living in a culture where the big tech companies don't like what we say and are actively working to suppress it. There's not going to be any change in that, despite all the preening by Congress. So find alternatives and ways to unplug. Don't unplug completely, otherwise we can't influence the culture in a positive way. If you want to see things get worse, let's completely disconnect from the culture and have no means of convincing people that we Bible-believing, gun-toting folks aren't crazy. If we separate ourselves completely from the culture, we will just confirm that we are a bunch of weirdos and we can't be trusted.
Yeah, and just something to think about too is that I encourage people still stay on these platforms that are run by, let's face it, they're intellectual fascists. That they have appointed themselves as the arbiters of quote unquote truth within the public sphere. And if you just jump ship and go somewhere else, guess what? Then the diverse voices and the truth is not being heard. So still speak truth, even if it gets you a Facebook ban here and there. Wear that badge with pride.
Absolutely. Remove your private personal information as much as possible from those services, but stay fairly active there so that you can influence the culture in those places and be the island of sanity in the sea of craziness. But yeah, check out places like Parlay or MeWe or Rumble or Gunstreamer or whatever, and look for alternatives and find ways to disconnect and spend less time worrying about it. Again, not to beat a dead horse, but get off the TV and the computer from time to time, turn off the phone, and enjoy what's around you that you're missing because your face is glued to some device.
Well said.
All right, so I think that'll do it. If you've got any comments or any questions about anything you heard here or complaints, or if you have a tech tip, a suggestion for our listeners that you would like to share, visit our feedback page at armedlutheran.us/feedback. We'd love to hear from you and respond in a future episode. Pastor, thank you so much for doing this, and thank you all again for listening. Next week is another variety show with tips from and rants and pontifications from the entire cast. Until then, keep shooting, keep praying. We'll talk to you next time.
John Bennett is the pastor at St. John's Lutheran Church in Willow Creek, Minnesota. For more information, visit stjohnswillowcreek.org. For show notes, be sure to visit our website at www.armedlutheran.us. Check out the Facebook page, The Armed Lutheran, or join our Facebook group, Fans of Armed Lutheran Radio. If you like what you hear, please leave us a comment on our feedback page at armedlutheran.us/feedback or a review on iTunes and let us know what you think. Thank you for listening to Armed Lutheran Radio, a member of the Self-Defense Radio Network.